Dear friends, welcome to the Summary Club, the channel of fast training and self-development. Today we have prepared for you a summary on a really useful book, Men from Mars, Women from Venus by John Gray, which he wrote for 7 years. But the main thing is that he didn't try for nothing, and the total circulation of the book has already exceeded 10 million copies. And this fundamental work on relationships was included in the top 10 most influential books of our time. The incredible popularity of this book can only be explained by its real usefulness, as well as an addition to the non-standard author's approach to the interpretation of the old as the world, the theme of the relationship of the sexes. From reading the book itself, and even watching our summary, you will understand how to actually find common ground with the opposite sex, understand your wife or husband, and even possibly avoid divorce. So it's not really a book, it's more like a scientific work in the artistic style, which has a psychological and therapeutic effect, and most importantly makes it clear that in their problems people are often not alone. In fact, thousands of couples are experiencing the same difficulties in their relationship as you are, and with this book they are also overcoming them quite easily. That's why you shouldn't be too harsh, but rather calm down and figure out how to restore understanding in the family or between people who once loved each other. John Gray has a whole series of books, but today we're going to look at the most popular and important one. So sit back, and you'll get all the best advices from book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus in as concise and informative a format as possible. Better yet, take a notebook and write it down, because according to official statistics, which really held, the author's advice helped more than 90% of readers to establish relationships with the opposite sex. And so, this, not dare I say it, this textbook encyclopedia of family relationships according to the author will help learn conflict resolution techniques. Begin to look differently at building intimate relationships. Win the love you deserve and give it to your loved one. Form a picture of a healthy love relationship that will support you throughout your life. Summary of the book Men from Mars, Women from Venus. And so the book begins with the narrative that in the modern world mankind has long ceased to be divided into mammoth hunters and hearth keepers, was earlier in the Stone Age. Now both men and women strive not only to survive, but also to gain love, recognition, independence, and most importantly, to be themselves, accepting and combining both masculine and feminine in different proportions. In our safer and more progressive times, men are no longer so shy about showing compassion, tenderness, and other conventionally more feminine qualities, and women are no longer dependent on their husbands and can support themselves financially. In connection with this, the number of divorces has also increased. But the saddest thing is that now few people are interested in trying by all means to save a marriage that is falling apart, because it is a much more difficult and time-consuming path than simply filing for divorce. Modern couples need not only to fall in love, but what is much more difficult, to maintain this love in the future. Well, the preservation of passion and the feeling of soulmates is only possible with healthy hormonal proportions. For example, if a guy complains a lot, then his girlfriend gradually acquires and produces more male hormones, while a woman who is too demonstrative of masculine qualities, on the contrary, causes a strong manifestation of femininity from the chosen one. As a consequence of this, there is a disturbance of the hormonal background, and, again, as a consequence, the libido of both partners decreases and their passion goes away. But if you learn to keep the right hormonal proportions in a couple, both partners will be happy. Women and men have different hormones and different ways of dealing with stress. A common relationship problem is that people comfort others on the basis of what comfort they themselves would like, but this is where the different needs of women and men come into play. Suppose a woman, before solving a problem, first wants to speak out, to be listened to without interrupting. A man at this moment thinks that this woman needs advice and immediately starts trying to solve the problem, but of course this does not help, because the woman, speaking out, shows her natural weakness and craves only to be heard, petted and hugged. When a man is having difficulties, he usually wants to be alone and think things over so that no one touches him for a while, and the woman, not realizing this, starts interfering with questions and unsolicited advice, because of which the man becomes irritated or loses his manhood and stops thinking altogether about solving his problem. When a person is stressed, hydrocortisone is produced in the body. Sex hormones help to neutralize it, testosterone in men and oxytocin in women. To produce testosterone, the more masculine hormone, you need sports, competition, learning new skills, working on projects, doing useful work, being quiet, improving your life, having sex and making money. To produce oxytocin, The hormone that women need more. You need to talk more about your feelings, share your feelings, cuddle, treat yourself to a massage, go to the hairdresser or store for new outfits, take time for yourself, go on dates, get flowers, give and receive gifts, go for walks and visit public places, chat with friends and take care of loved ones. And so, everything is clear, you will say, this is the medical biochemistry of the human body, but now what to do in practice and how to use this knowledge to establish relationships. This is what the next parts of the book are about.
Subscribe to the Summary Club and watch short versions of the most popular and useful videos every day.
Instead of recriminations, brief requests. One of the main tips is to criticize each other less and love each other more. After all, for example, if a man expresses dissatisfaction to a woman, she most often perceives it as spoiled and picky, from which she reacts aggressively and begins to try even less. If, on the other hand, a man complains, he will feel that he is being nagged. The moral is that it is quite possible to do without almost any claims, because no one likes them, and if you need to talk to your spouse, it can always be done gently and in the form of a request or a wish, but without hints of aggression and nerdiness. Just communicating heart to heart in a trusting and loving tone, telling what you like, bringing it to your partner's attention, but not demanding a response. For many of us, the mere thought of never hearing another rebuke is just heaven. Although some people don't understand this kind of relationship at all, and many don't even believe it happens. But as John Gray wisely said on this subject, if there is no room for reproach in a relationship, love thrives in it. Accordingly, if your family life is full of mutual recriminations and accusations, then even if they are fair, it will still be more like a real hell, and then you should not be surprised and run to psychologists with questions about what the reason is. Now you know exactly what it is, and more importantly, how to fix it. The healing conversation. And perhaps the most important weapon John Gray gives in his book on the relationship between the two sexes is conversation. Yes, to communicate loving each other need more often, and not necessarily during a dialogue always solve some important problems. Sometimes the conversation just helps the man to feel like a real knight and the girl to be a weak princess who feels protected by his man. Just this way, the man will produce testosterone and the woman oxytocin. The technique of such a successful and practically healing woman's soul and relationship conversation is simple. The man listens silently to the experiences of his beloved. He does not try to give advice, does not devalue her feelings, saying that she is worried about nothing. The fact is that women sometimes just need to be listened to and held in a warm embrace after the conversation. If a man is stressed, his conversations are likely to make it worse, so the strong sex, to get rid of anxiety more often will help some active work, such as sports, but certainly not to take out their excessive expressive energy on his beloved fragile girl with a delicate mental organization. Well, our main conclusion from the book Men from Mars, Women from Venus is that everyone in today's world needs the same thing for self-actualization, support and love. But it must be remembered that for men and women this is achieved in completely different and sometimes completely opposite ways. That's why true love between a man and a woman is so beautiful, precisely because of their differences and complementing each other. So embrace your true self and remember that if you are not from the LGBT community, your partner is actually from another planet, which has its own recipes for achieving happiness, which you have to adhere to or at least take into account. And there is no need to try to find similarities between Martians and Venusians and to theorize for too long. You just have to take into account and enjoy their differences. And also the results of happy family relationships if you do manage to apply at least half of the useful tips from this book, which we, as a learning and self-development portal, wish you. And friend, don't forget to subscribe to the Summary Club for becoming more successful, educated, kinder and wiser every day. Save hundreds of hours and dollars spending on boring regular education. Feel free to write your opinions and questions about each video. We read all the comments. In addition, go to our official website where you can find reading materials or watch other videos on channel and links in the description. All the best.